Well, here we are, the end of a fall day. Garden is being deconstructed. Let's see what we got here. Beautiful sun. Things come apart. My herbs are all inside. I'm still getting some nice strawberries. Fountain we shut down shortly. It's more funner.
And when you just go, it's more funner. Whee! Whee!
Yeah, they put in a apricot tree which did not take. It died. In the far distance there's a house cap, and then a bunch of wildflowers and clover that I planted. So got 3 walking onions in here that will be coming up. See, my strawberries gone crazy. Some of the wildflowers, bee balm, some beautiful clover, and another haskap is in here somewhere under these wildflowers. Oh yeah, there it is, right there. It'll come up next year. I'm not too worried. That it took like 40 days from bare root planting to come up, but they back down to this grape perennial in its place. My pots are done. Some asters, black-eyed Susans, which I still want to transplant. Bee balm, which I still want to transplant into the soil. And my ground cherries, and I think this is a ground cherry which got lots of flowers, cherries on it, and still flowering like mad. So, that's turned out well. I gotta find a place for it. Doing great. Hasn't flowered yet, but this is a perennial. So what I'll do in the next few weeks is I'll probably take that up, and same thing with these black-eyed Susans, which are doing great also. My herbs are doing very well. It's the basil. Sage, rosemary, chives, dill. I cut a bunch of those for pickling. Beautiful flowers. I was very successful with my Lowbush blueberry. Some transplants that I did in the heat wave, and some replacement things I put in. That one there, beautiful flowers, and also ones in the back. Still in the beds is leeks, which have to come out, and my sweet peas, which are very beautiful this time of year. I'm on the outside of my property, community green long for several years, and finally this year it really took off, and I've trained it onto this fence, so it's gone about 10 feet in that direction and up into this bird feeder. So I'm going to wrap it around there, and it's sent off two horizontals lower down that are reaching right into that pollard. So I've attached it there. There's another one right. If successful, it's going to alleviate several problems. It's going to cover the crest of the cattle panel and provide shade for my shade-loving plants inside. Here's my hothouse. This is my little window I built with the squash cucumbers growing right over the top. Now, see those scarlet runners? I've done very well. It's the second harvest. You can see all those beans in there. And then when the wind blows, which is quite frequently, you know, they're very exposed and they get. So let's take a look at current state. Too long, they need to be shortened. Arches, whether it's heat or whatever, the snow pea or the sugar snap peas have not done well. The beans have done really well. Also, as you can see here, I've got tremendous problems now with moles, either moles or gophers. I'm not sure, but they come in and just dug up and destroyed big areas. This arch here, see on the one side is the sugar snap, so they're still producing. And as the weather cools down, you know, they'll take off again, but you can see moles in the background there. And the beans have done really well, and inside and outside it's been sporadic, so I've got to do better figuring that out. But so, you know, some successes, some failures. My hoop bed, you can, you know, my radishes, daikons, they went to seed immediately in the heat, and now my brassicas are, some of them are going to seed, so I gotta open that up as well. Again with pruning, this is the easternmost apple. You know, I'm gonna have to trim this west side next to the hothouse down significantly and try to drive the thing to bend over and come down. On the east side, I got some branches that are really extended, and they're overlapping this asparagus bed, and I definitely have to trim those back. So again, I want to allow them to come towards me, towards the south, and then start bending down like that branch right there, and get the fruit lower down and allow more sunlight in the upper levels, which of course that's where the sun is. The goldenrod, I mean, it's doing well, but it's just a tiny cluster. My phlox, same thing. That's the original plant there. It's spread a couple spots, and of course these lupins, they spread like mad, and I may have to dig some of those out. This is my triple plum, which I put in this year, and it's done okay. It's expanding. I've got 3 plums on it, and these are the red plums, which are getting ready to harvest. There's 3 of them, so that's my harvest for this first year. Plum, and should possibly be brook red, these other 2, but I'm not sure. Pata plum. So I've got to reimagine my pruning strategy for these fruit trees. It's a plum, and then there's 3 apples. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it at the top a bit. I'm going to trim these back a bit, and keep it open in the center and allow it to keep growing out to the south. For the beans, yeah, these are doing great on the trellis. They really climbed up there, but you notice they're just flowering right now. So just flowering. Here I've got the beans climbing, and also a bed of beans. And as you see, as you look in here, a couple of varieties. These ones are just about ready to harvest. Pioneer green beans, looking really good. And I've got, oh, there's a nice bean on my trellis. My other cattle panels, my other two, this one has beans on the one side, which has gone, no, it's gone up to 7 feet. And it was kind of late going, but you know, I've got a good harvest previously, and I got a bunch more that are all set to pick. And there's a lot of flowers, so again, if the frost holds off for 2 weeks, I'll get another flush to harvest. Well, you see the beans on this side, they're way up there. On the other side, sugar snap peas, not doing great. But I think it was too hot. The burst of growth. To really maximize this harvest, because those will all turn into nice beans in 2 weeks. So, you know, I won't do that again, and because this takes too much effort just to get into bed. And it's kind of interesting. I figured the beans would just keep going and go straight up, but they've kind of got a anti-gravity. So one of the things that I'm thinking is that I've got this space, this caterpillar trellis, that I could fill in with a more permanent vine, which I'll get to in a few minutes. But I'm thinking grapes might do that, and that would be fantastic. Another interesting thing is these beans in this system, when I get up to the point where the arch starts to bend over, then the beans, when they fruit, they send out a little fruiting stalk. So what you end up with is you've got an arch with your fruit hanging right down in your face. So it's perfect for harvesting. My varieties, these purple ones, have done the best in terms of harvest and fruit. The Scarlet Runners, they grew very fast, but not as many fruit. And the yellow ones are a little delayed. And this is my second harvest, so I gotta harvest these shortly and end up with something very good. Garlic harvest, 4 garlics, or nicks. These guys are gone crazy. Now a few greens, I've gotta figure something out better for them. And there's again some Egyptian walking onions, which hopefully will overwinter. Some more of these. Here's some more transplants I put in. Irises, echinacea. And here's my grape. My one grape that's been here a few years. I got one tiny bunch out of it. It's growing up, so I'm letting it grow up into my bird feeder, then cross over into this post with the idea I'm going to let it next year hopefully grow up and swing over to the top of my arch. Cherry bushes did well, as did my apples. There's my apple crabs. Oh, they are so sweet and delicious. It's fantastic. I've frozen buckets and buckets of these, and yeah, I just eat them when I come out. They're delicious. Also, my pollard posts with the wires, yeah, it was a mixed success. I got some beans eventually to grow way up, but I didn't get much harvest. So I'm going to convert these to grape arbors. My peas did poorly except for these along the hothouse. And look at those rhubarb. Those are totally munched by the rabbits. Terrible. I was hoping to get some harvest. Oh well, feed the bunnies. And on the kale, bugs got those. So that wasn't very good. But still, they should be good for, you know, another month at least, maybe 2. So pour the water on. Finally. And Anna's saying, uh-oh, I may have a problem here. But, oh, they've taken over. They're continuing to move through the garden. And here's some of their handiwork. All right, let's get some more nut butter here. This one. I've seen mice raining. Okay, I got it in there. Now let's light it. It's lit. Letting off gas. Yeah, not working. Okay, that was dead. I've just finished with the pump blowing out my drip irrigation. So each segment blew out, took off the tapes, and they'll be inside for next spring. Still got some beautiful flowers. Some remnants of some beans that grew up right up to the top of the arch. And anyway, so I'll do a bunch of videos and put them together shortly. The hothouse, which we see here, my asparagus bed has gotten established. Hopefully it'll come up next spring. I probably won't pick any, but still got a lot of carrots in here I need to harvest. But I got about 20 asparagus plants in there, so hopefully that'll be a long-term success. My ever-bearing raspberries, you can see, they're blooming. It's going to be -7 here tonight. So that's not going to take, but they should overwinter, and then the tips will produce nothing next year where there's blooms, but everything down below, all the way down, will put out branches, and we should have a massive crop next year. Hothouse is just about shut down. Everything's taken out. I'm storing my drip tape in here, and dug out those bags. I got to do some work probably in the spring. I'm gonna build up a box where those bags are, so I can plant in ground. And everything else is out. I had lots of tomatoes. That was very successful. The squash had fungal problems, and the peppers did pretty well. I actually dug them all up, and they're inside, so I'm going to overwinter them and get more peppers. In here, it's a mixed result. My peppers, plants I transplanted, I got these hot peppers, and yeah, those are looking good. Transplant or pick some of those shortly. Otherwise, I put in this pot I got for cheap, and it suffered when I was away for lack of water because it has to be watered every day. And then down my squash, this has been a mixed bag too. I've harvested some zucchinis. I'm starting to get a bit of mildew in them out. Would work. You know, my sunflowers, they're come and gone. They're done. So hopefully they'll dry out. But my squash, you know, it's still fruiting. So nice mushrooms that came up just before I left on holidays, and they grew like mad and then exploded, spread spores all over everywhere. And what we see is lots of tomatoes in a pot on the right hand side, in the ground on the left, squash in the back. It's problematic because it doesn't hold enough water and it needs to be dealt with every single day, or else it wilts and it's a goner. So I need to get all the tomatoes in the ground. The other thing I learned, as you can see here, I've got moles even into the hothouse. This is the second big hill here that I put in, and you can see they're getting up there. They're getting some little flowers on it. There's a hot pepper. It's done really well. I've already harvested 3 or 4, and I've got, you know, a dozen on there that are quite nice. So that turned out well. Shortly, what I want to do is dig these up. Since these are perennials in the right setting, so dig them up, put them in pots, and bring them inside. This is the back of the hothouse. And there's a bunch of stuff growing in here. It's a combination of zucchini, sunflowers, some sort of a gourd squash, or pumpkin, maybe that's a pumpkin, and cucumbers. Now, the only thing that's really done anything of particular merit for harvest is a zucchini. And as you look down on this plant here, you can see there's a nice zucchini. Years ago I cut out all the things with mildew on it, and you know, the actual squash, etc., has to be hand watered every day. And I've also found I basically have to hand fertilize everything. Like these pumpkins here, we got a nice vine, but I hand fertilize these two, and that's why I've got fruit. My tomatoes in the ground have done fairly well. You can see this is like a beefsteak. I've already harvested one big tomato. Here's another. That's the first fruit, and there's some other ones in there. So, you know, these are probably going to be good. Cherry tomatoes, I step back. They're like 7 feet tall, still flowering. Apple tree, a different small apple. My blackberries, I got 2 plants plus a raspberry that are established. I got currants up there and elderberries down below, along with a bunch of flowers in here. So yeah, things are coming. So I managed to get some flowers in here. Got some elaearis in there, hopefully they'll take. And lots of alyssum. They're still flowering. Amazing. Black-eyed Susan's back there, so I'm going to make this bed. I'm going to fill in with black-eyed Susans in here and try to make a big bed. Of course, the end of the season. Here's my green going on the compost heap. Look at these troughs. They finally really kicked in. I got some nice heads of lettuce here and different variety down below. And I got to get these out of here. again some more. Collect some seeds from the bee balm. And again, Egyptian climbing onion that are nicely established. And I've got some really tall raspberries. So hopefully we'll get a bumper crop next spring. In there, our strawberries, sorry. Yeah, other flowers in the front. There's some wildflowers in the back. I'm not sure what these are, but some different things. Yeah, nice color in there. That's my hazelnut. I had great luck with this cherry tree, and I got some branches that are growing up into the space to block the pathway. So that's good. Harvesting cherries. They're just like thick and massive. A bit at a time because they have to be pitted. Yeah, and beautiful. Great, luscious, grape-sized cherries. More annuals. That's a horseradish they transplanted from a yard in Calgary. I see buckthorn. You know, they all look like they did something, so that's good. Yeah, here's my jostaberry, looking good. That's a hazelnut in the middle, a jostaberry. Over on the side on the trellis is some more Arctic kiwi. That's where I did the potatoes. Again, not very successful. I drew some artichokes. All right, let me reintroduce you to my potatoes in Jerusalem. And here's what I got so far. Some beautiful tops and greens, but you got those little shoots coming off. A few potatoes, and actually, you know, the stalk came off, and there's two okay potatoes, and there's the seed right there. So, seed potato, stalks coming off within an inch, or a couple right there, and you can see, got a couple of nice shoots that came up, but then rotted, and there's a lot of this is kind of spongy. Here's one I pulled up. There's the ground level, inch below ground level, a nice looking potato. That's those little potato seedlings. There's ground level. The seed potato is way down here, like 2 feet below. And then in the front, we've got Arctic kiwi. Look at, there's a fruit right there. It It did well. It's gone way up into the eaves, so it's looking good. Finally in the front, I got clover, I got some wildflowers, and this little guy, which I planted last year, it finally came up and is progressing, so maybe it'll get established. So lots of clover stuff. Over on the other side, we've got about a dozen raspberries established, and lots of clover. So these raspberries should all bloom next year, although I did get about a dozen or so this year. So hopefully it'll take. Now, out in the side yard, I've got these bags of leaves, which I've been gathering from a local park and shredding them with a shredder and then mixing them in to my compost pile in layers, lasagna layers with greens, shredded leaves, lots of water. And this is the second bin. This is the one that I did earlier in the year, and I turned and moved over here. So at some point I'll probably turn it. Maybe not till spring, I'm not sure.